Hello, this is me, and today I'm going to be brewing a couple of beers, Parti-gyle style. If you're unfamiliar, it's a brewing technique basically using one or more mashes to create two or more warts. Best known example would be to use a single mash and take the first runnings from that mash to create a strong beer, and the second runnings to create a milder beer. Another example might be to do multiple mashes and blend them at different ratios to make several different beers. So how do you do a Parti-gyle? Well, a little bit of maths and a lot of tea. Seriously though, it's a little bit more complicated than that. If you want to see exactly how I came up with my recipes, I should put a link somewhere around here that will take you to a companion video that will show that. It's complicated. I am going to need a plan. Take 1 3-vessel homebrew system and add water. I'm going to need a bucket as my HLT's only got 50 litre capacity. Take a ton of malt and add water. We're going to start to mash at 67°C or 153 Fahrenheit for 60 minutes. Then we'll batch sparge once or twice to fill the kettle with the first runnings. After that we'll continue to batch sparge and collect the second runnings in a modestly priced receptacle. Sparge over, I've still got my grain, only this time it's wet and heavy. I've also got 2 warts or gyles. Gyle 1 is male down, it's getting 60 IBU with East Kent Goldings and a black treacle addition as well. This will give me a pre-boil gravity of 1072 and an original gravity after the boil of 1093. Because I haven't had time to do a starter, I'm going to use 2 packets of Nottingham dry yeast. That should give me a final gravity of 1025 with an ABV of 8.9%. Nice. And then on to Gyle 2, which is our best bidder. I'm going to give that 2 separate charges of archers, early and late. With a pre-boil gravity of 1034, that should give me 21 litres with an original gravity of 1044. Into that I put in 1 packet, smacked already, of Yeast 1099, quick bread variety. That should give me a final gravity of 1013 with an ABV of 4.7%. And at the end of this day, we're going to have a happy me, a sad me. Regardless, I'm going to have earned a beer. Right, let's see how I got on. Before we begin, these are my brew shoes. They're comfortable, they're dry, I've owned it, you can't take the Michael. The brewer is 100% electric, so power on. To ensure that the temperature in my HLT remains constant, I'm going to recirculate the water. If I don't recirculate, then the water at the top of the hot liquor tank could be a different temperature from the water at the bottom. So the first reason I'm doing this is so that when I mash in, I know exactly what temperature water I'm mashing in with. The second one is that this is a home system, so I'm going to recirculate the mash through a metal coil inside of my hot liquor tank. That's going to allow me to maintain a constant temperature in my mash. Water heating and recirculating pump on, it's time to prep the mash tun. Mash tun prepped, now it's time to sort the grain. All 14.5 kilos or 32.5 pounds of it. Joy of joys. The blue containers are readily available online, and to this point at least, they seem mouse-proof. The mice had a field day when I first started brewing in the garage. Now if I thought about it, I'd have made that a slow motion shot. Never mind. If you're anal about hitting your numbers like I am, it's far easier to mill your own grain. You get a regular crush and a much more predictable mash each time. So that's a 30 litre bucket and a lot of grain, but even at this point I was thinking I was going to get away with a batch sparge. And still believing now. Okay, water's up to temperature. Grain's ready. Let's mash in. I'll do this by underletting, i.e. filling the mash tun up from the bottom. On my system at least, it prevents the formation of pain in the arse grain balls and just makes the whole process much nicer. So you see how easy it is? Just pressing up and down and up and down. All your grain gets wet. Just give it a quick stir up and you're ready to go. And at this point it finally dawned on me that unless I wanted to do 15 batches, I wasn't going to be able to do a batch sparge. So instead I'll fly sparge, but I'm probably going to have an impact on my efficiency if I do that. Batch sparge gives me the same efficiency again and again and again and again. I know exactly what it's going to be and it lets me hit my numbers easily. Fly sparging is just a bit more unpredictable. You've got a balanced flow rates and there's a potential for grain channeling. But hey ho, I'm a big boy. If there's any issues, I'm sure I can deal with them. So to maintain a constant temperature of my mash, I'm now going to take the wort from the bottom of the mash tun, pump it through a coil in my hot liquor tank where I'm carefully controlling the water temperature, and then feed that back into the mash tun. Again, in the interest of efficiency and hitting my numbers each time, I'm going to add a little bit of phosphoric acid to the mash, and that's going to get me to a pH between 5.2 and 5.4. And now, in the words of Bernard Cribbins, let's have a cup of tea. Yorkshire tea to be exact. Filtered water, no milk, no sugar, just black and lightly mashed. My beer should be about this colour. Right, crack on, Paul. Hop filter fitted, never forgotten that before, and we'll start with the sparge and the runoff. Next step, mix up a batch of peracetic acid, my preferred sanitizer. And a couple of pumps later, I'm ready to kill any beer spoiling nasties on contact. Okay, I need to prep 2 fermenters, as I've got 2 worts. So the fittings are all going to get a boil on a medium heat for 20 minutes, and if anything survives that, well, it's welcome to the beer. And a bit of peracetic acid should take care of the rest of the fermenters. Because I used RO water, I've got to add some salts back in. I'm going to do that in the boil though. Given my mash water was split over 2 vessels, it just wasn't worth the hassle of trying to do it any other way. So I've collected 8.5 US gallons or 32 litres, and that's supposed to be 1072. So the fly sparge has given me a much higher efficiency than I was expecting. Never mind, Parti-gyle is all about blending worts to hit exact gravities, so I'm going to keep on sparging until the water in the kettle reaches my 1072 pre-boil gravity. So now I'll just pull off the excess and continue to sparge into the bucket, and that becomes my best bitter wort. With the wort now approaching a boil, it's time to sort out the hops. They're in there somewhere. And bingo! A single 60-minute addition. While we're boiling, it's time to circulate some PBW solution and then later some peracetic acid solution through the wort chiller, and the tubing will carry the wort to the fermenter. So my lovely clean and sanitised chiller and tubing have been used to take the wort to a couple of degrees over pitching temperature, and now it's time to transfer over to the fermenter. So pump off, tube out, bugger. And just as I thought, some idiot had left the kettle tap open. Wort successfully transferred to the fermenter. It's time to check my original gravity. And hang on, how could I have missed that by 7 points? Unless, wasn't that supposed to be in the boil? Don't worry, I can fix this. A quick 15-minute simmer and voila! No harm, no foul. Okay, maybe a little foul. And another one. And one more. So while the old ale's cooling to pitching temperature, let's crack on and get this best bitter sorted. 2 hop additions this time, an early one and a late one. This is the late one going in now, complete with the whirl flock and some yeast nutrient. Wort cooled in the fermenter, and my original gravity is about 4 points above what it should have been. Again, a consequence of the fly sparge, I think. Back to the old ale, and I'm going to rehydrate my 2 packets of Nottingham yeast. I don't always rehydrate, but this is a strong beer and I want to give my little friends as much help as I can. A few minutes later and it's ready to go, so time to pitch and then grab a beer. This was one of several beers I grabbed. Hey, I deserved it. The next morning came all too early. I'd be lying if I said I was in top form. But my heart was warmed by the fact that the old ale was starting to show signs of fermenting. With the best bitter wort cooled to pitching temperature, I had a job to do. Liberal use of sanitizer, rip and pitch. And then we're going to need to aerate the wort. So this is a simple quick carb corny kit that I've slightly modified. I've hooked my oxygen cylinder up to a corny gas in post keg thingamabob, and it's going to get 30 seconds of oxygen at 2 litres per minute. And after that, it's simply a case of removing the aeration kit, putting the proper lid back on, and job's a carrot. I hope you enjoyed that. I tried to make it a little bit different to everything else I've seen that's out there. Hopefully you appreciated that. Leave some feedback below and I will get the message if you didn't. So how did they turn out? Was it a success? Well, they're both drinkable. That's a good thing. Here's my old ale, and here is my best bitter that I may have had 1 or 2 more sips of because it was more or less the same size before. But hey ho, you can see they're very similar colour. The old ale is going to be darker, 1 because it's the first runnings, so we've got more of the crystal, more of the carafa. 2 because it's got the black treacle in it, and 3, you'll notice that's a tiny bit murky still. That's the second glass out of that keg. I've hit this a bit, so this is the 5th. But you can see it is lovely and clear, just about. So I like the taste of them, but why listen to me when you can listen to 2 members of the Milton Keynes Homebrew Club, 2 esteemed members, Jack and Bill, who came round for a socially distanced tasting of this and other beers and gave me their opinions. So have a listen.
So I'm trying Paul's best bitter. It's the second runnings of his old ale, and I'm getting, well, definitely a best bitter. It's caramelly. It's, you know, it's very clear for it's only 3 weeks. 1 week.
1 week in the keg.
1 week. Oh, it's
2 weeks in the fermenter, 1 week in the keg.
Delicious. It's 4 or 5%. You could definitely have a few pints of it, and if I don't, Paul will kill me.
Sorry, I'm sampling here the best bitter, and I get a lot of caramel notes. It's not unpleasant. It's not overly carbonated, but I quite like that. Yeah, and it settles quite nicely on the tongue. Yeah, it's quite a pleasant drink.
Do you think the hops are quite English? Because they're a very English hop to me.
They are. You can. It's very much a best bitter in that respect, so like a traditional best bitter. Yeah.
Right. So I'm trying Paul's old ale, which is the bigger beast, the first runnings of the second runnings we had earlier. Now, this is the same beer. You can taste it. It's the same bitterness, same caramelly flavour we were having earlier, but it's turned up to 10. It's the same profile, but it's more, and it's delicious. It's as treacly. Paul tells me he's put black treacle in.
Can you taste the licorice?
There is, yeah, the licorice, kind of that black treacly flavour. Now, you know, we were just discussing a minute ago potentially having the original beer, the second runnings, this first running old ale, and then having a blend of them between. And if Paul can get off his arse, he might actually go and pour us a bit of both of them into the same beer, and we'll be able to taste that, and I'll be back for a 3rd video to tell you how good that is. But if not, good night.
So I'm trying Paul's old ale here. I'm really impressed by how big it tastes on the mouth. It's the treacle that comes through. I don't think I could drink a lot of it because it's feels quite strong, and yeah, it's a very nice first running of the beer. Yeah, really enjoy it.
So there you go, not total drain fodder. Would I do a Parti-gyle again? I think I would. It's probably not a massive time saving piece for me, above doing 2 brews, mainly because of the need to fly sparge, whereas with a batch sparge I can knock them things out very quickly. That fly sparge took a bit of time, but hey ho, lesson learned. I'll definitely try it again. This time a Patus beer as my second runnings and a Golden Strong as my first, I think, and we'll see how that comes out. If you've enjoyed this, then feel free to subscribe. I have a hankering after something beetroot. for my next brew, so I'll try and record that in much the same way I've done this one, and post up in the same channel. So thank you for watching, and catch you on the other side.